Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services, including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning.
Tom, you know, one of those big bad planning results and bad results is this perception that it's always better to put the children's name on the house.
You know, we hear it every day. People come in and want to do it, and the reality is it's usually the worst possible thing you can do.
So let's talk about a married couple first. They have their residence. What happens to it if one spouse goes to a nursing home?
Well, if one spouse goes to a nursing home, we transfer it to the healthy spouse. It's totally protected, no liens, no nothing.
Totally protected, meaning it's not available to pay for the institutionalized spouse's care.
Exactly.
And you can do that even after the institutionalized spouse goes to the nursing home?
Perfect time to do it. Now we know who's in the nursing home and we just transfer it.
That's right, because even though you have people sitting in our office every day that one's beginning to suffer dementia, does not mean that's the person's going to the nursing home
Well,
first.
exactly. And so we try not to guess and just wait till the facts develop, and then you do the right thing at the right moment.
Well, one of the problems is that you've made a transfer of a partial interest in the house. Whether you gave them outright 50%, everybody says these life estate deeds, everybody know they're perfect. Well, obviously they're not, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But even when you do the life estate deed, you've made a conveyance of a portion of the value of the property.
Right. When you do a deed to a child, that child owns some part of it, even if they're not involved at all. And so it's not some illusion. And so Pennsylvania and Maryland will treat that transfer as a gift of some numerical amount.
Now you go back to that house being automatically protected for a married couple, but you've added a child's name to that house, whether it be a remainder interest in a life estate deed or a partial interest in the house immediately. That's a gift. What happens if one or the other spouse goes to a nursing home within 5 years?
Well, not only is it a reportable transfer gift, but now they penalize it. They penalize it by refusing to pay for nursing home care when you would have otherwise been eligible.
So for instance, if that were a $100,000 transfer both in Maryland and Pennsylvania, somewhere around a year's worth of penalties on that.
Absolutely.
If you had not transferred that house to the kids, you had just kept it in both spouses' name, then transferred it to the healthy spouse, you would have had immediate eligibility for benefits. But what's the consequence in Pennsylvania? That $100,000 transfer within 5 years ago in a nursing home.
Well, as you said, once you're eligible, we would have normally had the bill paid. Now the state's saying, we're not paying for a year. You figure out how to pay the nursing home at $10,000 a month.
And so what they don't understand is they're creating a problem when there wouldn't have been a problem but for the fact that they made that transfer.
Well, exactly, and that's really what's happening. When you are adding people's names to your real estate, you are creating problems and risks that usually don't exist.
What happens if that child has an automobile accident that's not properly insured?
Well, you've got risk, and you've got some potential loss of value in that house.
And the creditor can force a sale of that house in order to liquidate the child's interest.
Right. They get a judgment, and then they're going to force a sale, and that's the end of that.
Suppose that child ends up in a domestic proceeding.
Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time, half the time. And so that child's interest in the house is considered an asset that's sort of this, part of the juggling act of distribution and divorce, and so it could be basically lost.
Child loses their job, now they're unable to pay their bills. What happens to that child's interest in the house?
Well, now you have a child going through bankruptcy, and then that bankruptcy comes back upstream to hit mom's house, and it becomes an asset that some trustee is distributing potentially.
Now you have a married child. you know, their relationship with their spouse is good. That child dies. What does that will probably say?
Well, almost every time it gives it to their favorite spouse. And so now mom or dad is sharing their house with their
daughter-in-law.
Daughter-in-law, or worse yet, daughter-in-law.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to a special guest feature on contemporary retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. My guest today is Bill Beard. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Now, Bill, I didn't give you a title because you're involved in so many different things, and we have a lot of fun talking about those varying issues.
Right.
Now, I happen to know that you're active in the redevelopment of the Center for the Commission on Aging. Tell us a little bit about
Well,
that.
the Senior Center, which is on Willard Street, the old Armory on Willard Street, is coming along very nicely, should be finished the end of the year. That's where the Commission on Aging offices will be relocated. And I went by there just the other day, and there's just an army of workmen all over the building, so I'm very delighted. That's going to be really terrific.
One of the things I want to mention here is even though you're involved with Washington County, Commission on Agings are required by federal law. So every one of the counties that our viewers are watching from have one too. Sometimes it's called an area agency on aging, but it provides meal support, all types of activities, as well as support and figuring out how to get insurance.
Benefit checkup, that's a big one.
And so we want to encourage people to not just think we're talking about Washington County, we're talking about all of them.
That's right. They're all, some of them are different. Ours is a separate nonprofit, but every county in Maryland and, you know, through the viewing area everywhere, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, they all have senior centers, and they're great. Exercise for the mind and the body.
Now, of course, you know I love to talk about the RAMP project. Tell us a
Right.
little bit about your RAMP project.
Well, we continue. That's an offshoot of the Commission on Aging. We do about 10 or 12 ramps a year, allow people to get in and out of their house, allows people to remain in their homes and not be forced to go into a nursing home or a hospital. So I have a volunteer group that loves to do it. I call it my Erector Set project.
Now, you've done this in such a way that actually when the family no longer needs it, you can actually take it down.
We take it down and reuse the materials. Absolutely. That's how we save money. We have volunteers and we reuse materials, so that's why we're able to continue this. We've been doing this for over 15 years.
And so if you have somebody out there saying, I can't afford to hire a contractor to come in and put a ramp in because I'm on a fixed income, I have 2 steps, 3 steps, or whatever the heck
That's
it
right,
is that
right.
might get in and out, how might they find out more about your
Well, they give me a call, 301-745-6444.
or call the Commission on Aging.
Call the Commission on Aging and they'll take the information. We go through the Commission on Aging. People have to do a benefits checkup. So it works out very well. It's really a very good cooperative arrangement.
All right. Now, you also are involved in another program through MyHigh. First of all, what is MyHigh?
MyHigh has been around for 25 years, originally primarily involved with exercise, recreational equipment, so that everybody, whether you have a disability or don't have a disability, are able to do exercise. About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we got involved in Project Lifesaver, which is what I'd like to speak about today.
Now I'm going to ask Director Gregg to kind of get the camera on this here. Now, what is this, Bill?
That is a transmitter.
All
And
right,
everybody, all the participants in our program, Project Lifesaver, wear a transmitter. It has a unique,
So it's essentially like a watch.
it's like a watch, has a unique frequency.
Okay.
So when somebody wanders away, whether it's an autistic child or a senior with dementia or Alzheimer's or Down syndrome, they call 911 and say so-and-so's wandered away, and they can go out with receivers that track the transmitter.
All right,
And
so
we
this
had-
is broadcasting all the time.
That's broadcasting all the time. We have the batteries checked and changed every month.
Does your
with-
organization take care of that?
Yeah, through volunteers and through 911. This is MyHigh funds and MyHigh, and the 911 group does the work. We had one just in the last week or so. Somebody wandered away that was new to the program, and they were found immediately.
So it has a unique frequency then, and you have receivers that can then identify
That's
that.
exactly right. The sheriff people and the city police people and the emergency people have the receivers and go out and find them. It's really slick, and we're very pleased. We're up over 30 people in the program. It was very easy initially to identify the autistic children because they're in the school system.
Right.
So we were able to pinpoint those. It's been more difficult to get to the senior community, and so that number has grown considerably.
And this is a heck of a lot better in a sense that you don't have to have that button, because unfortunately many times people forget to punch the button, whereas this is on all the time.
Well,
so
and people with dementia sort of fade in and out. We had one a year ago, walked into a police station here in Hagerstown and said, "I think you're looking for me." And the system was working, and the man behind the desk said, "Yes, you're so-and-so." And so it was, we're very proud of that.
all right.
And we'd like to have more than 30 people, because the need is out there in the community for people to have this.
And don't worry about cost.
And don't worry about cost. We're well funded.
Bill, as always, thanks for taking
Thank
time
you
to
very
appear on
much,
our
Marco.
program. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Guys, I thought you were supposed to be working in the yard.
If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. My guest today is Dave Engel, Director of Washington County Department of Social Services. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
You know, when we talk about the health of seniors, we talk about a lot of things, both their physical health as well as their mental health, as well as being protected from exploitation. Tell us a little bit about some of the services that the Department of Social Services provides for retired citizens.
Yes, we are the agency that is responsible for protecting vulnerable adults in our community. We did about 250 of those investigations last year throughout the county. Half of those were what we call self-neglect, where an older person may be no longer able to care for him and herself. We also had about a fourth of those cases were neglect by a caregiver, and that could be a family member or another person who wasn't really taking proper care of the senior. Sadly, Mike, the bad economy that we've had and financial difficulties that people were having has really increased the number of cases of exploitation of our seniors. We've seen that caseload grow about 40% over the last 4 years, and you've seen in our local paper some results of investigations that we've conducted with the Sheriff's Department and other law enforcement officials. So it's a really big part of our job, but we also provide case management services for any disabled adult 18 up to age 65. And our goal there is to help people stay in their homes or in a community setting and avoid institutionalization. And we'll help hook people up with medical services. We provide in-home aid services to provide assistance with personal care, chores services, some light housekeeping. So we're really trying really hard to keep people in their homes and active in their senior years.
Now, we're talking about adult protective services. We're not talking just about Washington County. That's a mandate.
That's correct. All of our counties throughout the United States have some agency who's going to be charged by that state government for investigating abuse, neglect, or exploitation. It's really parallels the child welfare system that gets a lot more publicity, but it's a safety net that's out there for seniors, and we work with Pennsylvania, Berkeley County, Morgan County to any kind of interagency referrals that we need to make.
All right, now when we talk about referrals, that's a great challenge. You know, first of all, you talk about that 50% that's self-neglect, and
Yes.
it's a heck of a problem because many of these people will not acknowledge that they have any problem at all.
Yes, that's correct. Those referrals come to us from neighbors or perhaps family members. Neighbors will tell us that I haven't seen Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones go out to the mailbox. Doctors may call and say this person hasn't been keeping his or her medical appointments. And we will contact that individual and let them know. Our most important message is that we're there to help them, to be a support for them, and we want them to remain in the community. And there are a host of community resources that are available to help seniors. We work really closely with Commission on Aging, the Health Department, but the average citizen may not be aware of those services or how to access the services. So our staff go into the home and really try to reassure the person that we're there to help them, and that hopefully they can live a happier, healthier life with some of these supports.
And one of the things that's occurring now is, I know that, and you're committed to this, is the fact that, you know, sort of these organizations in the past were stovepipes. They didn't talk to each other, and I know you're really working to try to eliminate that.
You're absolutely correct. Here in Washington County, we meet quarterly with all of the agencies who serve adults, and we'll bring the law enforcement people in on those. And they are meetings that we hold to make sure that folks are aware of services of the different agencies, any barriers that the agencies may be encountering. And then we'll also actually do a case conference if we have a particularly problematic case in which a number of agencies are involved. So again, our goal is to provide an array of services to the individual and make sure that he or she is getting all the help that the community, the public sector, and the private sector has out there for them.
Now, I know you've worked with the Commission on Aging to develop a benefits checklist.
We work hand in glove with Commission on Aging in Washington County. We're really proud of that relationship. They actually have staff that are located within our office so that referrals can be made quickly and easily. The benefits checklist is something I would encourage all seniors to look into. It's a real comprehensive look at the resources from, again, state government, federal government, private resources, and there's a lot out there when people are able to learn about their services.
Dave, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program. Great stuff you're doing there.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate your support and appreciate making this information aware out to the public.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
People don't realize it takes a lot to care for a family member in your home. John's dad was very headstrong, so I think that was a lot for him to get over and try to come to terms with that he had terminal illness. I would recommend everybody to get hospice involved at the get-go. When you first learn about it, get it set up. It's going to make it, I mean, it's terrible what you're going through already, but it's going to make it easier for you in the long run because we couldn't have done it without them.
Call Hospice today. Hospice of Washington County, when time matters most.
I have wanted to be a teacher ever since first grade. Without the Mary and Ruth Smith Scholarship, I would not be successful as a growing adult.
Do you wish to make a difference in the lives of others? You can, and you don't have to be wealthy to impact future generations. Start your legacy at the Community Foundation and impact lives, just as Mary and Ruth Smith have done.
Thank you to the Community Foundation for believing in me and providing me the opportunity to become successful with my goals.
Albright, Crumbacher, Mal & Eitel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. Making Sense focuses on the financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today, Sandra Miller, Senior Vice President of the Family Heritage Trust Company. Welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thanks for inviting me.
Sandy, when we talk about investing, the old belief is that you could kind of pick a few stocks and somehow be smarter than everybody else in the market, and yet studies have shown historically that that model has more risk than a much more diversified model.
Well, back in the old days, the U.S. market was the place to be. Back in the 70s, 65–70% of every dollar invested was invested in the U.S. market. There's a projection that says by 2050, if you're not invested globally, you're missing the boat, because the U.S. market's percent of that dollar is going to shrink to about 17%. So you've got to be other places. So it's very important to look at your portfolio through the global lens, so to speak. So you've got your U.S. stocks, but you also have to look elsewhere, and you have to make sure you construct that portfolio with an institutional money manager that knows the global market, and we provide that service.
And sometimes, our viewership would look and say, well, that 2050, that's really fine, but except I'm not going to be here then. And of course, that's obviously the case with many of our viewers. But most of our viewers, when I talk to them in my office, are very intent on providing an inheritance to their children and grandchildren. And so while it may not be specifically relevant to them, if they are trying to increase the size of their nest egg for their family, they do have to take a longer perspective.
Yes, it's important to look at your money as living beyond you, because you obviously have relatives, friends, family, and so forth that you may want to provide a legacy. And having the ability to do that and having it continue to grow beyond your lifespan can be a key to providing a very nice lifestyle for those that you love.
And of course, one of the great challenges early in retirement at age 65, looking forward, where it's essential that you match inflation or do better than inflation, because CDs right now underperformed inflation by several percent for the last several years consistently. I saw recently that that the cost of care in long-term care facilities has doubled the inflation rate, and the Office of Management and Budget of the U.S. government is predicting it will double the cost again for the next 20 years, which really means that portfolio you have sitting there with absolutely no growth in it may not provide you even the security that you would view it as providing you today if you were confronted with that.
And a lot of people don't understand the economics of that scenario that you just described. It's all about today. What did the market do today? I'm afraid of getting into the market. It's too volatile. But if you take a look over the long term, 10 years, 20 years, you'll see that even though there is some volatility in the marketplace, which is the growth opportunity that you're looking for, the bias of that market movement is an upward bias. It sort of looks like a picket fence going up a hill. So you have to participate to a certain degree, depending upon your degree of risk, in that marketplace so that you can continue to live the lifestyle that you will be living 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now.
So oftentimes that might entail for that 85-year-old only about a 20% stock portfolio, 80% very safe government bonds and so forth, short term, in order to take out volatility. On the other hand, that 60-year-old who really needs that portfolio to grow might have somewhere between 40 and 50% stock because they need it to have the same purchasing power 20 years from now that it has today.
And that's the important thing to remember. The longer you have before you are going to need to use that money, you can tend to be a little more aggressive.
And oftentimes we find clients that have IRAs are always taking the required minimum distribution because they're really trying to save it, which really means that they have that type of a long perspective on it. They can, in fact, take a little bit more risk in it.
Yes, they can. In all aspects of an IRA, that's where you want to put your most aggressive assets because they're sheltered from paying tax until you make that distribution, and then you have to pay tax on the money that comes out.
But then on the other hand, when you're holding money for a 30 or 40-year-old, they're not supposed to touch that money for 25, 30 years. And going back to the analogy we used last week with the Dow Jones, on October 1st, 1987, it was 2,700, November 1st, 2,700. In the 17,000, 16,000 range for the last several months here. And so the reality is they would have 5 or 6 times growth in their portfolio, which they would have never had they been in CDs during that time.
Oh, that's so true. And their buying power would have totally eroded.
That's right. So there's no one size fits all, but one of the things about the model you use is you use an institutional manager that Everybody's stock portfolio, whether it's 20% stock or 100% stock, has more than 11,000 stocks across the globe.
Yes, and they've been doing this institutional management globally since 1981, and they have the ability through the statistical database that they have to make those choices without you having to worry about it.
Sandy, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
My pleasure.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.